deadly spring break, the nightmare in the cabin. Introduction. In the spring of 2013, four college friends, Sarah, Alex, Jake, and Emily, decided to spend their spring break in a remote forested area in Montana. They rented an old wooden cabin by a small lake, hoping for a few peaceful days away from the stress of exams and the chaos of the city. But what started as a relaxing getaway soon turned into a horrifying nightmare. A nightmare that only one of them survived. Day 1. Arrival at the cabin. The cabin was old but charming. Its weathered wood glowed under the sunset, and the lake stood in eerie silence. The owner of the cabin, a grumpy old man, handed them the keys with an unsettling warning. Don't stay out in the forest after dark, and if you hear something, ignore it. They laughed it off, thinking he was just trying to scare them, but they should have listened. That night, after dinner and laughter by the fire, everyone went to bed. But in the middle of the night, Sarah was the first to notice something strange. She woke up and saw that the closet door at the end of the room was slightly open. She was sure she had closed it before going to sleep. Day 2. The strange footprints. The next morning, when Jake went outside to gather firewood, he noticed muddy footprints on the wooden porch. The prints led toward the cabin's front door, but strangely, there were no footprints leading back. Whoever had come near the cabin the night before never left. Trying to shake off their unease, they spent the day boating on the lake. But as the sun set, Emily suddenly pointed toward the trees and whispered in a shaky voice, "Someone's standing there, watching us." When the others turned around, there was nothing. But Emily swore she had seen a tall, pale man with sunken eyes standing between the trees, staring directly at them. Night 2. The knocking sounds. That night, heavy rain poured down. They sat inside, listening to the wind howling outside. Suddenly, they heard a faint knocking at the window. Tap, tap, tap. Alex shrugged. It's probably just a tree branch. But Sarah, her voice trembling, said, "There is no window on that side of the cabin." Their blood ran cold. No one dared to move the curtain and look outside. After a few minutes, the knocking stopped. Everyone tried to sleep, but Emily couldn't relax. She checked her phone and found a strange message from an unknown number. "Why did you turn off the lights? Now I can't see you." Her hands shook as she put the phone down. She didn't tell anyone, but the nightmare was only beginning. Day 3. Jake vanishes. The next morning, Jake was gone. His bed was untouched, but his shoes were missing. When they opened the front door, they saw footprints leading into the forest. But the terrifying part? Next to Jake's footprints, there was another set, larger and deeper, as if someone had dragged him away. The group called his name, but no answer came. Panicked, they followed the footprints into the forest. The deeper they went, the heavier the air felt, and an unnatural silence surrounded them. Then suddenly, Emily screamed and pointed at a tree ahead. Hanging from the branches above them were Jake's shoes. Night 3. The terrifying truth. With no other choice, they returned to the cabin. But as they stepped inside, a piece of paper was sitting on the table. It's the last night. Who's next? Fear gripped them. Someone had been inside the cabin. Then, footsteps echoed from the roof. Someone was up there. Emily gasped, but Alex quickly covered her mouth. "Stay quiet. It can't know we're awake." But it was too late. The cabin door burst open. The end, the only survivor. The next morning, a group of hikers passing through the area stumbled upon a terrifying scene. The cabin was wrecked, the doors and windows shattered, and streaks of blood covered the wooden floor. But only one person was found alive. Sarah, curled up in a corner, staring blankly at the wall. When the police questioned her about what had happened, she only whispered one sentence, "It's still following me." But the strangest part, there was no sign of Jake, Alex, or Emily. No bodies, nothing. Only the trees, their bark carved with deep, eerie markings, as if they were warnings. Stay away. The dark secret later, investigators discovered that the cabin once belonged to a family who mysteriously disappeared in 1987. There were also reports of multiple people vanishing after staying there over the years. But Sarah, a few months later, she disappeared too. The only thing left behind was a note written on her bedroom wall. We were never alone. Spring break at the secluded cabin. Introduction. In 2010, a group of 5 friends decided to spend their spring break at a secluded cabin in the heart of the Alaskan mountains. The cabin was far from the nearest town, perched high in the hills where the roads were quiet and the air was crisp. The friends, looking for peace and relaxation away from the noise of the city, were ready to enjoy nature, take long walks, and escape their hectic lives. Little did they know, this spring break would take a terrifying turn. The first day. The first day went perfectly. The cabin was spacious and luxurious, surrounded by lush greenery. The beauty of the area was breathtaking, and the air felt refreshing. Everything seemed perfect, and the friends were enjoying the serenity, hiking and taking pictures in the fresh spring air. But what they didn't know was that this cabin had a dark history. The first night, things took a strange turn. After a day full of outdoor adventures, the friends gathered to play games and relax. As they laughed and joked, one of them, Ali, stepped away from the group and glanced out the window. To his horror, he saw something strange, a shadow moving among the trees in the distance. At first, he thought it was just his imagination, but the figure seemed too distinct to ignore. He hurriedly told the others, but when they looked out the window, there was nothing to be seen. Strange noises. The second night, things took an even stranger turn. As everyone was getting ready for bed, they started hearing faint tapping sounds coming from upstairs. Initially, they brushed it off as the wind, or perhaps some animals moving outside. But the tapping continued, followed by scratching noises along the walls. It sounded unnatural, like something or someone was in the house. One of the friends, Miriam, decided to investigate. She went upstairs trying to stay calm. When she reached the top of the stairs, she heard a strange sound coming from a room that was always locked. It sounded like moaning or whispering. With shaking hands, she unlocked the door and opened it. What she saw inside froze her in place. The room was empty except for an old dusty bed, and the walls were covered in strange, unintelligible writing that seemed to have been there for a long time. The mysterious guest. The next day, the group decided to venture outside the cabin to explore the area. In the woods nearby, they found another abandoned house. The air around it smelled foul, and it looked as though no one had lived there for years. They decided to go inside, curiosity overcoming them. As they walked through the house, one of them, Saman, found an old notebook in one of the rooms. The notebook was filled with pictures and strange entries about people who had once lived in the cabin. But what chilled them to the core was one picture, a photo of someone who looked strikingly like one of the group members, Saman. The photo appeared to have been taken long before Saman was even born. The most terrifying night. By the third night, the atmosphere had become increasingly unsettling. The group promised each other to stay away from dark rooms or the old house. But at midnight, the doorbell rang. When they answered, no one was at the door. But as they closed it, they saw a tall, pale man standing at the end of the hallway, staring at them with hollow eyes. No one spoke. The man didn't say anything, only stared before slowly turning and disappearing into the shadows. Later that night, as they tried to sleep, they heard faint whispers coming from one of the locked rooms. The whispers were barely audible, but enough to send shivers down their spines. One of the friends, Salmon, dared to go check it out, but found nothing in the room when he opened the door. The whispers stopped as soon as he entered, but the eerie feeling lingered. The vanishing car. The next morning at around 4 a.m., a car pulled into the driveway. The friends were relieved to see a real guest. Finally, someone else. As they stepped outside to greet the driver, they were met with an old sedan, its windows fogged up. When they approached the car, they realized something was wrong. The car was covered in dust, as if it had been abandoned for years. The seats were cracked, the tires were flat, and the windows were cracked. They approached the car to get a better look inside, but as they did, the headlights suddenly flickered on, blinding them. In an instant, the car vanished. No sound, no trace, just gone. The final encounter. As dawn broke, the group decided to leave the cabin. They packed their bags, ready to escape the horrors they had encountered. But just as they were about to leave, the doorbell rang once more. They answered it, and there, standing in the hallway, was the pale man again. This time he smiled, a cold, chilling smile, and whispered, "I'll see you again tomorrow night."